Continuing, let's look at problem E. On problem E, notice that we have a plus 3 that's a part of our exponent. Again, because it's actually inside the function, it's a part of the exponent, it's what's going to shift us left or right. We see a plus 3, so you're actually going to do the reverse. You're going to shift to the left 3. Again, we normally start out with a horizontal asymptote at 0. Shifting that left or right, it doesn't matter. In this case, we're shifting it left 3, won't change anything. It's already going left and right forever, so shifting it left or right won't change anything. The horizontal asymptote will remain at 0. What will change is that first point, the 0, 1 point. If we shift that to the left 3, that will be at 1, 2, 3, negative 3, 1 instead. So that will end up with at negative 3, 1 instead. We still want 3 points, one on the left, one on the right of our point. So I'm going to want to plug in, let's see what happens at negative 4 and at negative 2. Well, plugging in negative 4 will give us 1/3 to the negative 1, which will actually flip that into 3. So if I plug in negative 4, I actually get a positive 1, 2, 3, so that will be up here. If I plug in negative 2, I'll get a 1/3 to the, let's see, positive 1, which is just 1/3. So if I plug in negative 2, I just get a positive 1/3, which is down here pretty small. And remember, this does match up with my fact that my base here is less than 1 because it's 1/3, which means my graph will be decreasing. Those points that I just found match up with that. So I'll be decreasing as I get closer to my asymptote at 0. And that's good enough. Let's look at another one. Okay, on this next one we have a -1. And notice the -1 is on the outside. It's not a part of the exponent. So that's what's going to shift us either up or down. In this case, with up or down, you do what it looks like. Well, -1 is going to shift it down 1. Well, if our horizontal asymptote here is normally at 0 here, shifting it down 1 is actually going to move it down to here at negative 1. Also, our point, which is normally at 0, 1, should also get shifted down 1, down 2. Well, if you move it down 1, it's actually going to just be at the origin at 0, 0. So, we already have 1 point. We have our first point at 0, 0. Remember, we want 1 point on either side of our point, which would be I want to plug in -1 and +1 and see what happens. Well, plugging in -1 will give me a 1/3 to the -1 minus 1. Well, 1/3 to the -1 will just flip that and become a 3 minus 1, which is a 2. So that means if I plug in -1, I get out 2. Now what happens if I plug in +1? Then I'll have my 1/3 to the first minus 1, which means we're going to end up getting, if you get a common denominator, a -2/3. So that puts us somewhere in the negative side down here, which does match up with what we have. Remember, we've got our graph here. Our base is less than 1, which does mean that it's going to be decreasing like the last one. So, which matches up with our point, so we can decrease through the points and get closer to our asymptote, which is, be careful on this one, -1. And that's it. That's good enough.